Representative Dean.
Just two comments on that. Mr. Coleman, as you go through that, I think we really need to keep in mind the difference between the urban and the rural. Keep that in mind when we develop policy or look at policy. And secondly, in regard to the bank, I have a little concern about that because there is a very finite amount of water out there. And I don't want us to look at our water bank like the federal government looks at their money, like there's an unlimited amount out there to be used. So I think we do need to be careful in how we're developing this bank that people can buy water rights. And it may get to be just like the liquor licenses to where they get so costly that it only allows the very rich to access them, and the rest of us won't be able to operate under it.
Any other comments? Senator Hamlin.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we ask Gavin Yates to present a program on the Montana-Alberta Working Group on Water so we can hear more about the Milk River and the interrelation of that, either the next session or the one after that. And also I talked to John Wheaton, and he could present a program on evaporation and how that factors in across Montana with their water.
Okay. Representative Pomnikowski.
And we're on exempt wells, Mr. Chairman?
Well, yeah, basically, but we're incorporating some other thoughts in that process.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, one of the notes I had down from yesterday goes to a bit of what you were just mentioning, Representative Bean, with urban considerations versus rural considerations. And so I think density, residential density, is really at the crux of the issue here. And I say that with no blame toward anyone. But I think one aspect that seems a bit peripheral but is pertinent is the subdivision regulations. And I think we can approach some of the problems through that. I've served on the zoning and planning boards in Bozeman for a long time through this big period of growth. And one of the problems with everything to do with it, not just water rights, but transportation and parkland and everything else, is that those regulations require a development to be looked at within its borders, within its outline, and not with whatever is happening next door, whether that is a 500-home subdivision and the one next to that is a 600-home subdivision. So the cumulative effect, I think, is what we need to work on addressing, and especially in closed basins. And honestly, if this needs to apply first in closed basins, that makes a lot of sense to me. And that also would speak to a rural versus an urban, or, well, vice versa, urban as opposed to rural solution. I think it's density we're worried about here.
If you think about it, you know, we already have in statute the closed basins, and they're defined. And it would seem to me that would be the logical place where all of the testimony that I've heard has come out of our closed basins, the proliferation of growth and the expansion of exempt wells, that sort of thing. It's in growth areas. Love to have the problem in Sydney, but unfortunately we don't. And so I don't believe we need to do one program fits this whole state. So I would suggest we confine that initially to the closed basins because we know what they are and we know what we're dealing with in closed basins. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments? That's pretty easy to do. I mean,
I don't know.
And there again, we're not reinventing the wheel because, like I said, they're all defined and they're in statute.